But I want to today discuss a little bit about how does the story of Purim, what could the story of Purim mean for us sitting over here and celebrating it, next week, Thursday. Purim is coming up, and looking through the story of Purim, or looking through the experience of Purim, besides for the traditions, in what way is the story of Purim a relevant story? And what type of lesson, what could we take from the Purim story into, for our life living, in 2022? Now, this is more of a discussion than one answer, because looking through the Purim story, I mean, you could take, you might have something which comes to mind on the spot, or we could think about it for a minute. I hear the story of Purim. I know the story. They tried to kill us. We won. Now let's eat. That's the story in short. But in what way is the story? In what way could we connect to the story or take a lesson from the story? And I'm going to share some ideas, some things that I've came across. But I'd also love to hear if you've thought about it before, or if you could take time to think about it now and say, okay, I know the story, and I've been celebrating this for however many years. I'm celebrating it as a tradition. But in addition, what type of message can I take from it? And if you have something that that you found has been a message that you've heard of or connected to in Purim, I think we could all benefit from hearing it. And then I'll go on to to say something that I've come across. But if someone here, you could unmute yourself. It doesn't have to be anything earth-shattering. It just has to be something relevant. Anna?
First of all, for a woman to be patient and to send your message in the right time when someone who needs to receive it is ready to do it. This is number one. Second, not to reveal all of the things right away, because sometimes it can work against you, like what had happened with Esther. And the third, which is the most important, that someone who is doing any ungodly things against Jews will always be punished in a very, very strong way. That's my input for that.
Right. I guess the first two are stuff that we could take for, how we should act. And number three is just something which could help give us some courage and support to know that Hashem is always with us. Thank you. And I haven't thought, those three things are things that personally I haven't focused on before, and I appreciate you sharing that. Anyone have another thought they'd like to share?
This whole idea that Hashem is always with us. So my son, my little son, when he was going to Cheder, so he came home and he said, that was his line in the play, that Hashem is always with us. So we joked about it over the years. So yesterday I was doing Tehillim on Chabad.org, and I'm looking at the first Psalm, which is Psalm 23, which is, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And there's a preface that's before the Psalm. And it says that the main point of everything is to remember that Hashem is always with us. So I just
That's
thought
like
of that.
The caption.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just thought of that I just saw this yesterday, and I was reflecting on this. And then you and Anna said this whole idea, Hashem is always with us.
Yep, that's definitely a message in Purim. While you're thinking, if there's any message in the Purim story, so the Baal Shem Tov, the first Hasidic master, he has a commentary on one of the laws of the Megillah reading. One of the laws in reading the Megillah, it says, the Hebrew is, and then I'll translate, Hakore es ha-Megillah lemafreya lo yatsa, which translates as, if you read the Megillah backwards meaning like there's 10 chapters in the Megillah. If I first read chapter 10, then read chapter 9, then chapter 8, then chapter 7, I do not fulfill my obligation of reading the Megillah. The Megillah has to be read in the order. That's the literal meaning of this law. So the Baal Shem Tov, he gives this law a different twist. He says the way to read it is, if I read the Megillah like a backstory, like a story that happened way back when. If I read the story of the Megillah like a history book, as something that happened in our history, that's not the way to do it. That's not the way to fulfill the obligation. The way to read the Megillah, the way to read the Purim story is what we're doing here today, is I'm thinking of the Purim story, I'm thinking of the Megillah, but as not something which happened to someone else, but to read the story and try to put ourselves in that situation, in those circumstances, and to find inspiration and lessons from the actual story. So you sort of put the play on words from reading the Megillah backwards to reading the Megillah like a story. Like in English, they say we learn history. History is 2 words. It's his story. It's a story of somebody else. That's not the way that we read the Megillah. The Megillah we read not as history, but as our story, and to find the lesson from the Megillah. If anyone has anything else that comes to mind, you could feel free to pop in. Something else, another lesson from the story. Yep, Susan. Excuse me if I don't say the names correctly. I apologize in advance, but
no worries.
Go ahead.
No worries. Something that my mother always said, that all of the celebrations that we have are really for Hashem, not really for us, that he enjoys these holidays, and that's why we celebrate them.
That is true, that we do things because we do things for Hashem.
Right.
And even if we wouldn't have found the inspiration, we're doing it because we're committed. That's true. And then we also try to find our inspiration and our relevance to our life. Yeah, so we try to make a good combination of those both. Thanks. It's actually so this teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, it seems like a play on words. If anyone else comes up with something, you could pop in at any time. It seems like a play on words. Like the literal meaning is don't read it backwards, and then he the Baal Shem Tov sort of plays with the words, and he says, oh no, it doesn't mean don't read it backwards. It means don't read it like a story that happened in the past. Although when we think about it for a few minutes, we'll notice that these 2 ideas actually come together very nicely. That reading the story backwards and reading the story like something which happened way back in history, these 2 ideas actually come together. And to explain it, I'll start with a story. There were 2 friends that grew up together, great Talmudic scholars. As a parable. I don't know if that the story actually happened, but we'll get the point. They were great Talmudic scholars, and they learned the Talmud and the Kabbalah and all different parts of the Torah, and then they went on different paths. They met up about 15 years later, and it came time for prayer, for davening. And one of the friends, he started the prayer. He opened up to the first page and he read it he understood what he was saying with the right intentions. And it took him about, let's say, whatever it was, an hour to go through the prayer. He didn't rush through it. And that was it. And then his friend, who was, welcome to everyone that's joining in. And when it came to his friend, an hour passes, an hour and a half passes, 2 hours pass, 2.5 hours pass. And finally, his friend finishes the prayer and he says, hey, what's the deal? Did he forget how to read? We've been learning. I know that's not the problem. What took you so long for the prayer? The prayer, the friend that had prayed for a long time, he turns and he says, what do you do for a living? He says, well, I'm a merchant. Twice a year, I go to the fair and I sell my merchandise for the year. He says, really? Wow, beautiful. So tell me, how does it go? How does it work? He says, well, I pack up my wagon with all my merchandise, and it takes me about 2 weeks to travel. I travel to the big fair, And I sit there for 3-4 weeks, haggling back and forth, trying to get, the best, get the best deal for my merchandise. After 3-4 weeks, I head back. I head back into the wagon, and and then I come home and I have my money. I have whatever I need, and I'm relaxed for the next 3-4 months, and then I go back out to the fair. Because really, so during the fair, do you have time to study Torah? He says, well, I have some time, a few minutes in the morning before I go out, a few minutes in the evening, when I come back. But you can't compare. When I'm home, relaxed, obviously I'm able to learn, with a lot more, a lot more time, with a lot more, a lot deeper. So the friend says, I have an idea for you. I have a genius idea. How about go to your office, close the door by your desk, close your eyes. It says, close your eyes. Now imagine yourself filling up your wagon with merchandise. Fill up your wagon, one box, next box. Don't skip. Go through each, imagine you're filling up your first package, your second package, your third package. Fill up your whole wagon with merchandise. Okay. Then imagine yourself getting into the wagon and whipping the horses and traveling towards the fair. Day 1, you travel, and then imagine yourself sleeping in the motel for the night, traveling day 2, sleeping in the motel for the night, traveling day 3, traveling day 4. Imagine yourself going through the whole process. You know how it is. You've done it many times before. You were able to vividly imagine what it's like to go travel to the fair. And now imagine yourself getting up in the morning, going out to the fair and haggling on the price. Day 1, day 2, go through the whole process in your mind. And then imagine yourself getting back home with all the money. Now open your eyes. Okay. How long did it take you to imagine all that? It took me about 4 hours. This is amazing. You just went to the fair, you bought and sold, you came back home, and now you have an extra month and a half to sit and study Torah. And says, obviously it doesn't work like that. If you're just imagining it in your mind, then it goes quick. But if you want to actually have the merchandise, there's no shortcuts around it. If you want to have the merchandise, you have to pack the wagon, get into the wagon, go to the market. The reality takes time, and it takes energy, and it takes effort. You can't skip. You can't skip around. Everything has to be done properly. So your friend says, exactly. When it comes time to pray, there's 2 ways to pray. I could either pray, I'm reading the words, and I understand the meaning of the words, but I'm saying the words like as if someone else is saying the words through my mouth. That could go pretty quick. I read the words, I understand the words, but if every time I say a word, that word is coming from me, that I feel that word that I'm saying, that I'm the one actually saying that word, here it takes time. So if you want to know what took the 3 hours for my prayer, it's because when I was saying the words, I was actually living, not like imagining, but actually living the words that I'm saying, and that takes time. So in a similar vein, when it comes to reading the Megillah, so if I'm reading the Megillah and I'm actually living the story, making the story, putting myself in the shoes of our ancestors in the Megillah and actually living the story in real life. So you have to go through the story as it happened. You have to read the story and learn the story in order, because the reality, there's a process in how the story happens. If I'm reading the story of the Megillah like a history book, so the order is not so relevant. I remember this part of the story, I remember that part of the story. It's not so relevant, the exact order. I could start at the end and then move back to the beginning. But if I'm actually living the story, so then the story has to go, it has to go with the natural process of the story. So when the Baal Shem Tov told us that the law, that you can't read the Megillah backwards, really means you can't read the Megillah like a history book. they're actually interconnected. The reason I can't read the Megillah backwards is because I'm supposed to live the story of the Megillah. And if I'm living the story, then it has to go in the natural order, the natural process. So they're not two separate ideas. These two ideas are actually connected. After that whole rant, if something came to mind, another lesson from the Purim story, now is a great time to share, or we'll continue. All right. So when it comes, Yehuda, is that to say something? Oh, I see the one. Okay, fine. So to get a better picture of the Purim story and what happened at the Purim story, we're really going to go a little bit back in history to when the Jewish people received the Torah at Mount Sinai. The Talmud, there's actually a tractate of Talmud dedicated to Purim, to the Megillah. But the Talmud that we're going to focus on, or that we're going to mention, is actually in the tractate about Shabbos. The Talmud quotes a verse which says that when the Jews were standing at Mount Sinai, it says they were standing under the mountain. Could be before. Pretty scary. It says God took the mountain and he placed it on top of them, and he sort of forced them to accept the Torah. You've heard this before? Is that familiar? Yeah, it says in the Talmud. That's what it says. It says he took the mountain, he put it on top of them, and he said, like, listen, guys, you gotta do this. You gotta accept this. This is the Talmud says. The Talmud continues and says, since from the time of Mount Sinai, when we received the Torah, the Jewish people always had a way out. They were always able to say, yeah, we accepted the Torah, but we didn't do it willingly. We were forced to do this. We shouldn't be held accountable for everything because it was done by force. The Talmud continues, however, at the time of the Purim story, that's when there was a complete acceptance and commitment to the Torah. The verse that he brings is Kimu v'kiblu haYehudim. In the Megillah, it says that they accepted and they established their commitment to the Torah. So that happened by the Purim story. So at the time of when the Jews were given the Torah at Mount Sinai, it was forced upon them, and at the time of the Megillah, that's when they accepted it fully. So it sounds pretty wild, this idea to say that the Jewish people were forced to accept the Torah. But what it really means when it says that the Jewish people were forced to accept the Torah, in modern terms, we could use it as it was love at first sight. What's love at first sight? Love at first sight is I see something and it's amazing. I'm pulled into this excitement and this inspiration. At the time of when Hashem gave the Torah at Mount Sinai, the Jewish people at that time, they were living in a different type of reality. At Har Sinai, they experienced amazing miracles. Besides for experiencing a miracle, at the time of when Hashem spoke the 10 Commandments, Hashem himself spoke. The Jewish people heard Hashem talking. Hashem's existence, or Hashem's reality, it was palpable. The Jewish people were able to feel, see, know, hear Hashem speaking. Did they have a choice to accept the Torah? Is that called a choice? If I see Hashem is talking to me. Would I say that I have a choice whether I want to go with this? I mean, for all practical purposes, I have no choice. For all practical purposes, I'm pulled in. I have no other option. Some people or I go on a diet and I don't want to eat anything, and then something this cake comes out, this 7-layer chocolate cake with a cherry on the top. It says, I have no choice. I have to eat this. I mean, choice is a relative term. Sometimes something is so exciting, so inspiring. It's so awesome. It's so amazing.
Don't
that
talk that way at Sheer. Really.
Sorry?
I said, don't talk that way at Sheer.
It's so exciting. Then I have to go with it. So when Hashem put the mountain on top of them, well, the physical mountain, but the mountain of Har Sinai represents the awesome revelation of Hashem that was happening at that time. So the Jewish people went with it. Okay, that's what happened. Yep.
Yeah, I'm thinking that that's similar to the based into a rabbinical court, forcing somebody to willingly give a divorce. So you know what I'm saying? It's like they're forcing him, but they're really forcing him because this godly soul wants to do the right thing.
Right. Meaning when we say force, even when they put a mountain on your head, right? Is that force? Do you have a choice? Do you have a choice? If someone puts a mountain on your head and say, if you don't accept the Torah, I'm going to drop the mountain on your head. You have a choice? Any answer you give is going to be correct, right? I mean, yeah, well, you have a choice, but that's not called a choice. I mean, what else am I supposed to do? So in the similar vein, when Hashem is speaking to you and you see all these amazing miracles, you don't have a choice. You're swept in.
Rebbe, you're absolutely right. But it also says, I mean, it's the same point. I'm not in any way shaving anything. The insight I've just gotten from you now, the way you explained it is a way that I've never really thought completely about. But it says kagigis. He held it over their head like a barrel, not like a flat stump or something that smashes down, but a barrel is open all around.
I thought it was like a bath. I thought it was a bathtub.
Isaac, want to finish your thought, Isaac?
I'm sorry. No, if it's bothering anybody, I won't.
No, Isaac, I was just
adding.
I was just saying that I thought it was a bathtub, an upside down bathtub.
Oh, yeah, the gigis. Kafar aleim har kigigis.
Right. And all I'm saying is, he says, if not, you'll get buried there.
Tachtis ahar.
What's the end of the pasuk?
That they were standing tachtis ahar, under the mountain.
Yes.
So now the Gemara
says, either take it or.
And if not, you're going to be buried here.
No, doesn't say here.
What does it say?
It says there.
Okay.
And that's why there's a shaila. He says, "What if not? I'm giving you the Torah. It's going to act. If not, you'll be cut off, and you'll have to do it on your own. I'm leaving you to the outside world on your own." Never mind. I'm not going to get into the drasha. Okay. You were doing beautifully. Thank you. I apologize, really.
You have to apologize. So now so we're going a little bit back in history to help us understand and appreciate what happened at the Purim story. So the Yidden accepted the Torah. There was this amazing revelation. Then they went. Rabbi Lindsay, you wanted to add something? No. Now let's take a pretty broad look at Jewish history. The Jewish people went into Israel. They miraculously conquered all the nations of Israel, and they established their sovereignty in Israel for a few hundred years. They had Mishkan Shiloh with the different, different things during the way. Then they built the Holy Temple, the first Beis HaMikdash. For about 1,000 years, the Jewish people they experienced and they had their sovereignty in Israel with the Holy Temple, with the prophets, with the Nevi'im, with the prophets, with the miracles in the Holy Temple. It was sort of like a continuation of the amazing spiritual reality they were living with when the Torah was given. They continued with that for many years with the Holy Temple. Then the Holy Temple was destroyed. Holy Temple was destroyed, and the Jews were sent into exile. Now they don't have their sovereignty. Now they're living under another, another kingdom. And then 70 years after that is the first time that there was a decree to annihilate the entire Jewish people. So let's try to contrast what was going on at the time of the giving of the Torah to what's going on at the Purim story. This is two different worlds. At the time of the giving of the Torah, this was, like we said, this was the love at first sight. This was so exciting, and there was no other way. And now let's fast forward to the time of the Purim story. There's no Holy Temple. We're in exile, and there's a decree to kill and to annihilate all the Jewish people. So now it's a whole nother story. What happens now? What happens to our commitment at this point? Under these circumstances, our commitment is going to take on a totally different feel, a totally different meaning, because I'm not being forced. That force that existed at the time of the giving of the Torah is gone. That inspiration, that excitement is over. Now there's exile, there's persecution, and we don't see the hand of Hashem openly. So this was sort of the first time that the Jewish nation as a whole, and every individual Jew as an individual, is facing this type of question, or this type of reality, and what's going to happen now? Is the result going to be, okay, that was cool, that was nice, that was exciting, and now that the excitement is gone, this relationship is over? Or, okay, there's no excitement, there's nothing, there's no revelations, but now I'm going to find deep within me, I'm going to look deep inside, I'm going to find that commitment to Hashem, not because I'm being forced. I'm going to find that commitment because this is what I am, this is who I am, this is what I want. And this is a very pivotal time in the history of the Jewish people. And we see what was their reaction. What did they do? They didn't surrender. They didn't convert. They didn't try to get out of it. They didn't give up their commitment. They didn't give up their relationship. On the contrary, they stood strong. They stood proud, and they were clear about their commitment to Hashem and to Torah. Mordechai gathered 22,000 Jewish children, and they stood out openly and proudly to continue learning Torah. What happened during that about a year of the Purim story, that's the sort of the real story of the Jews. That's what the Gemara says, that until then we were forced meaning until then our commitment was questionable, because we were doing it because of all the excitement we were given. Now during the Purim story, and the Jewish people kept their commitment strong to Hashem and to Torah. Here's where you could see, the true commitment to Hashem and to Torah. Now, if we go a little bit further, so just to think about it, what really happened there? What really happened at the time of the Purim story? If until now my relationship was based on the revelation and the excitement, so now that the revelation is gone, so what is my commitment based on? Where does it come from? Or what is this commitment that I have to Hashem and to Torah? So we could relate to this, or at least we could see it. Since the Purim story, this happened many times, where we could where when there's a time where a Jew is persecuted, when a Jew is challenged on their Jewishness, there's a reflex, the Jewish reflex. The Jewish reflex is, when I'm threatened, when a Jew is threatened, his reflex is he comes out strong and he comes out more powerful. This is different than a revelation. Here, when there's a persecution, when there's a threat to my existence as a Jew, we see throughout history how the reaction is that the Jew gets, he gets sort of, not, I say defensive, but like his Jewishness comes out even stronger, comes out even more. Under persecution, that's when the Jew comes out even more. And that's what happened at the Purim story. And throughout history, we've seen that also. How many times, when there was a persecution, the Jews, not only did they not surrender, they actually came out stronger. But if we move a little further in the Purim story, okay, so there was the persecution, Haman was going to kill the Jews, and then Hashem maneuvered the whole story, and the Jews were saved. Okay, now that they're saved, what are we left with? After the Jews were saved from Haman and from being killed, what was the state? What was the circumstances of the Jewish people at that time? Did they have the Holy Temple? No, Holy Temple wasn't rebuilt yet. They were still Akati Avdi Achashverosh. They were still under foreign sovereignty. Was there any great revelations? Did they have any prophecy at that time? No, there was still no prophecy. What was their physical status, physical circumstances? Were they being persecuted? No, the persecution was over. Now, Esther, Mordechai was appointed to a high position. Esther was a queen. The persecution was over. On the flip side, there was no great revelation. So what were they left with? From either side, there's nothing pushing me. There's nothing forcing me, nothing getting me to bring out my commitment and my conviction to Hashem and to Torah. After the miracle of Purim, that was, or the ultimate test to our relationship as the Jewish people as a whole, and every individual as an individual, to our relationship and our commitment to Hashem. Life is good. I could be healthy. I'm not being persecuted. I'm living in the United States of America, 2022. I can wake up in the morning and have the commitment. I can wake up in the morning and not have the commitment. There's nothing pulling me either way. Here is the real question of what happens now. When there's nothing, there's no external factors that are pulling or pushing me in any direction. So here is where we look deep inside and we say, this is what I am, this is what I want to be. Not because I'm being forced because of a revelation, not because I'm being forced because of persecution, anti-Semitism. There's nothing pushing me, nothing for me. I can make any choice and it's not going to make any difference. Seemingly, like I could decide whatever I want. And over here, under these circumstances, I recommit myself to Hashem and to Torah. That's where the real dedication of the Jewish people are, which is what the Gemara says, that at the time of Purim, that in the Purim story, during the persecution and after the miracle, that's where the Jewish people really finally, or we were able to see the real commitment that under any circumstances, under persecution, and even more so when there's no persecution, we still stay committed to Hashem and to the Torah. Now, when I'm looking at this from the bigger perspective of the history of the Jewish people, this is huge. What happened at the Purim story is humongous. What the Purim story, in a way, the Gemara says this, in a way was greater than the giving of the Torah. The giving of the Torah, the commitment to the Jews' commitment is questionable if it's going to withstand all different circumstances. The Purim story is like sort of the final, the commitment to the Jewish people, to Hashem, is because they want it. It's because they're in it, they're doing it, not because of anything else. That's a huge deal. And it's interesting to note that we don't have anything on Purim, seemingly, that commemorates this. Wouldn't you assume that there should be something that we do on Purim to commemorate this, to celebrate this, to remember this, to bring this out? This is a huge deal. That's when it was set in stone that the Jewish people they're doing it not because they're forced to, they're doing it because they want to. Their commitment to Hashem withstands all circumstances. This is who they are, and no matter what happens, they're going to continue. This is a huge deal. How come we don't find anywhere on Purim to commemorate this? Okay, I think we're sitting over here, 16 Jews. Let's do it. Let's do something. Let's come up with an idea. Basically, I want to throw the question out. If we would have to create something, okay, we're not 70 Sanhedrin, but we're 16, more than a million. If we would have to create something to commemorate this idea that we're committed to Hashem, not because we're forced to, we're committed to Hashem because we want to, what would that look like? I'm taking suggestions. No, seriously. What would it look like? Yep, Anna?
What we are doing now, studying Torah.
Study Torah? Okay, well, on Purim, okay, so you're saying let's institute on Purim to study some Torah. Good, okay?
I'd say, B'chol derechecha da'ehu. If you want to celebrate, then extend the same things that Hashem extended, and work more on your Bein Adam L'Chavera. If you're already accepting Hashem, there's not much more you got to do there. That's why you can get drunk. They say the 2 days we learn the least amount of Torah is when? When do you don't have shiurim, you don't have anything at all going on, twice a year.
Because Torah
On
Purim.
Yom
Kippur, okay.
And on Purim. Yeshivas Mordechai Tzadik, yeah, for the kids. But the point is, we don't learn much Torah at all on those days. We accepted the Torah. Great. Now do something with it. Bein Adam L'Chavera. That's I think, and I've heard and I've learned. That's the whole concept of Purim. That's why you have Matanos Lev. That's why you have Shlachmanis. Nice. That's the idea.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
All right.
Okay. Any other ideas? We're taking suggestions, by the way. I'm going to submit this to the High Court. To find what could we do? What if you were the rabbi, if you were Mordechai Tzaddik, what would you do? What type of thing would you do to commemorate this? That Purim is the day that we're committed to Hashem because we want to, not because we're forced to. What would it look like? Okay, while you're thinking what it would look like, or we're still looking for ideas because we're a little bit out of ideas over here. But I remember my parents came to Florida. My in-laws live here in Florida. My parents came to visit, and on their way home, my mother-in-law was making sandwiches for them for their flight home. I mean, I've seen the tuna sandwich before. You take a piece of bread, you put some tuna on. If you're lucky, you get a tomato. You close it up, you wrap it up, and you're good to go. I see my mother-in-law's making a tuna sandwich. She puts a piece of bread, some tuna, then some lettuce, then some tomatoes, then some cucumbers, and then it's coming and it's going and it's going, and it was like a monster sandwich. I mean, every time if I'm in school and I'm getting some lunch, you get a sandwich and you get to go. I mean, that's the difference if you're doing something because you have to or because you want to. If I have to, I just do. If anyone has any ideas, we're still taking suggestions. If you have to, you just do the basic. When you want to do it, you go the extra mile. You're excited to do it. You do the same thing that you've been doing before, but it's with so much more energy and so much more excitement and so much more like you're looking to do it, right? When I'm doing something because I want to, you have to remember, I'm not doing something else. I'm doing the same thing, but because I want to do it. Okay, any other suggestions before we close the polls? What would you do if you had to find something to commemorate this idea that we accepted the Torah because we want it? Yep, I hear someone's unmuted.
I'm unmuted, but
Yep,
I'm not
yep.
sure what I wanted. I was thinking, like at Purim, we dress like either Esther or Mordechai. I don't know if you asked about Purim or about something else.
No, about Purim. Okay.
Okay, so I know that as kids we get dressed as Esther or Mordechai,
Mm-hmm. So okay.
and
You're saying,
that makes you live the part. You think about what happened, and you're living the part of it.
I like it. I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but I never thought about it like that. That when I get dressed up like the character, so that helps me live the character. Very interesting. Okay, so the polls are still open for another minute or two, but we'll continue on in the meantime. So if the Chachamim had to establish something to commemorate this, that we're doing it because we want to, not because we have to. So let's think a minute. What did the Chachamim establish? What did the rabbis establish on Purim? So there's 4 primary mitzvahs Purim. There's having the feast, reading the Megillah by night and by day, giving money to the poor, at least 2 poor people, to give charity to at least 2 poor people, and then to give shalach manos, food gifts, at least 2 items in the food gift to give it to a friend on Purim. Those are the 4 mitzvahs: Tanas Avenim, Shalach Manos, Kriyas Megillah, and Sudo Mishta. Now let's take each one for a minute, okay? So we have a mitzvah to give matanas le'avyonim. It sounds awfully similar to another mitzvah that we do all year round. I mean, it's like charity, tzedakah, right? There's a mitzvah on Purim to give charity. I mean, you have that mitzvah all year round. Another mitzvah on Purim is to give food gifts, to go to your friend and to share with him some of the food gifts. That sounds awfully similar to another mitzvah that we have all year round. I mean, Avas Yisrael, love your fellow Jew as yourself. Then we have having a meal. The meal on Purim is like the big deal. We have a meal on all holidays. We have a meal. Again, it's a mitzvah that's, again, awfully similar to mitzvahs that we do other times of the year. And what's the 4th one? Reading the Megillah. Sorry?
Oneg Shabbos.
Oneg Shabbos, so this mitzvah, Basta Yai. Then the 4th mitzvah is reading the Megillah. This idea to say and discuss the story of what happened on that day, we do it on Pesach. We read the Haggadah. Every Yom Tif we read in the Torah. There's something connected to the Yom Tif. So I don't mean to put a number on Purim, but Purim is no news. There's nothing special about Purim. It's give tzedakah, mitzvah we have all year round. Avas Yisrael, love your fellow Jew as yourself. Say the story. I mean, we do that either way. That's just common sense. And then have a feast. Purim is the most boring holiday ever. Yep.
Yeah, I think the feast is what differentiates it. And the simcha. You're more simcha, you're more happy, more simcha on, yeah.
Here it is. On Purim, we're doing everything we do all year round. But on Purim, we do it because we want to. I'm having Avas Yisrael all year round. That means don't do anything bad to anybody else. On Purim, what does Avas Yisrael mean? Go look for a friend to give him something to. All year round, we have tzedakah. What does tzedakah mean all year round? What is charity? If someone asks you for charity, give him. On Purim, we're not doing charity because we have to. We're doing it because we want to. Go find someone to give charity to, not one person, 2 people. On Purim, we say the story. Could you compare an old Maxwell House Haggadah that you open up and it's full of matzah crumbs from last year and you're reading the story Haggadah, you're reading the Haggadah, to having a beautiful Megillah, and we read it twice, by night and by day. When you do something twice, if I'm excited to do it, if I want to do it, I'm not going to do it once, I'm going to do it twice. Or like Rabbi Linsky was saying, the meal. We have a meal all year round, but can you compare the meal of another Yom Tov to the meal of Purim? The Purim meal, that's a party that you want to, the Purim Suda. That's the party that we're excited to be at, that's where it really is. So when you think about it, it's not that the rabbis instituted something to commemorate the fact that on Purim, we're celebrating because we want to, not because we have to. Everything on Purim is, it screams, we're doing it because we're excited to. We're going to give tzedakah because we want to. We're going to have Avos Yisrael because we're excited to. We're going to have a feast and we're going to enjoy it. We're going to read the Megillah twice. So this idea of Purim being the day that we accepted the Torah because we want to is really permeates the whole day and every aspect of the day. Because like we said, doing it because you want to doesn't mean you're going to do something else. It means you're going to do everything you were doing until now, but with excitement, with vigor, with passion. You're going to look to do it, not wait and only do it when I have to. So when I think about Purim, what's Purim? Purim is when we think about our commitment to Hashem, not because we're forced to, because we're excited to, because we want to, and to look deep down inside and to find that commitment, and then it'll come out in so many ways, in every way. How when it comes time to learn, it comes time to do a mitzvah, I'm going to do it not with the minimal amount needed, but I'm going to go for it full force. And that's one lesson. That's one way to make Purim relevant. And we had before many others. And I'm sure as you're reading the Megillah, not reading it like a history book, but actually reading the Megillah and putting ourselves in the shoes of the Jews at those times, going from the beginning until the end, not backwards. You got to start from the beginning. I'm sure as you go through the story, there could be many other tidbits of inspiration and lessons that we're able to take from there. I'll open up the floor if anybody has any questions or comments or that's it. Yeah, I will not shut down this Zoom. I will wait until I'm the last one here. So time-wise, we're just about there, but yeah.
Don't forget to turn off the lights when you leave.
Yeah, okay. Yes. I see, I don't see a name, I just see iPad. Yes.
It's Ben.
Ben.
I wanted to say in Purim, we see a lot of number 2s, you know. The holiday itself is Purim and Shoshan Purim. The Mishloach Manot, it's, you know, for more than one. Everything we do on Purim is more than one. Reading the Megillah, it's twice too.
Right.
Esther is seeing wants a man to come to her dinner twice. So I don't know why, but everything on Purim is done twice.
It's always
Maybe
double.
you can explain it to us.
Maybe because when you say enough l'chaim, you see everything double.
Like Ben is saying, there's Purim cut, there's
That's
Purim.
the next
Ben,
double I was going to talk about.
Ben,
Maybe that's the reason. Yeah.
And I drink grape juice, so I don't have that.
Yeah, so you have to find the new answer. I have my answer.
like Ben is saying, there's Purim and there's Purim
So
cut
what
on.
was your
That's
answer,
Also
Rabbi?
twos.
And actually, the word Purim is in the plural. Purim. It's plural. It's not
Yeah.
pour, a raffle. It's raffles. It's plural. So I don't know about
Even-
everything, but sorry.
Even Amon's sons were hung twice in the
Oh yeah,
Megillah.
yeah. Yeah, I've never heard
Right.
something about the doubles. Does anyone have any insights to why everything is double? Or why there's a lot of like twos?
Maybe double the simcha. I don't know.
Double the simcha. I'm in. Double the simcha. Let's do it. I'm convinced. Yes, Rabbi
Thinking that there could be twos because the whole world is revealed and concealed. There's revelation and concealment. And while you were talking, I was thinking Megillah is like Megala. It's revelation. It's because why? What happens on Purim? There are things in the world that are revelations of godliness that take place on every Purim. So that's why there is able to be miracles. You see Hasidic stories where the Rebbe and the Chassid play court and they maneuver things to do things in the upper worlds that takes place in the physical world. So it's a revelation of godliness that happens on a yearly basis. I just thought of that now.
Yeah, that's a beautiful interpretation of Megillah being Megala, like to reveal. Very interesting.
I like it too because it's opposite of Esther.
Right, Esther is hidden. Aster.
Right.
Double hidden. Yep. That's great. Yes, Anna?
Yeah, it's, maybe it comes from my teaching background. I truly believe that for many children, because it comes from a joy of performing in costumes and the whole family is participating in making this costume and unintentionally sometimes they're learning the story that maybe in some other situations they would not be interested. So it's kind of to bring your children to the heritage that they're supposed to share with you, but it's done in such a playful, game-like or theatrical way that it's very attractive for kids. I know so many of them who would say, no, I'm not going to any other services, but this is something that they're very excited to participate.
Yep.
The whole idea.
The what?
That's the whole idea.
That's the whole idea. I have my costume. Everybody else has their costume already? Your Purim costume?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Good.
I have a couple.
I usually go as Charvona.
That's great.
I wouldn't expect any less from you, Isaac.
That's
All right.
I'll just read it back.
Guide from the side.
Well, how many other people have you ever heard in Tanakh that they only say good things? Right?
I like it.
Am Charvona, Zachar Latoif. That's all they said.
Yep. Great.
I have a Mexican outfit and I have an army outfit.
Okay, those are. I'll put those on my list. The Mexican and the army.
Hope it's not the Mexican army.
No.
They're two separate ones.
Two separate occasions.
Yeah. That's great. Are there more classes on Purim? Is that the topic of like what are the other classes during the week?
Yes.
Is it
The
like
morning
every day
class,
something
we also
else?
studied the story of Purim.
Mm-hmm.
No, right now
I think
the
it all
Rabbi Smith
say
is
Mazel
not
Tov.
here, then we're going to study every morning about Purim.
Beautiful.
I hope you heard me.
Yes, you said you're going to study every morning about Purim.
Yeah,
That's great.
at 9 o'clock. Chicago time, actually. It's 10 o'clock maybe by you.
Beautiful.
We can rename
Great.
the group on YouTube, Purim Tyrus.
Put him.
I just want to say we should have a mazel tov to Ben on his new computer.
Well, Mazel Tov, Tischadish. Tischadish.
No, it's
Shehecheyanu.
actually, it's my old one. My wife is using the new one.
Aha.
That's why my name is not on it. It's the old one.
I noticed something new.
Ezra, are you on vacation by the beach?
No, that's my background.
I'm joking. Emir Hashem, God willing, very soon. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful.
See, I can change the background. there.
Okay.
You could change it. There you go.
Rabbi,
Ah, not as good, not as good. I like the other one better.
story.
Oh, if you like the San Francisco Bay Bridge, you got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that you were able to do that. That's wonderful.
Well, you can do that as well. If you- if
Not,
on some-
not with what I have, a dinosaur. I have Windows 7, so forget it.
It has a
Well, it does the trick.
bridge going from San Francisco to Florida.
See that, one of these days you'll say, "Beam me up, Scotty," and you'll go from San Francisco to Florida in 2 seconds.
That
Yeah.
could be reality someday.
Now we still have to say zoom me up.
Nah,
me up,
it's still beam me up. Yeah. That's become a classic.
I don't know why, but for some reason, I think the number of participants is increasing now. The
Why
word
not?
got out. There's a
The
schmooze.
word got asked. There's a schmooze.
Schmooze.
The weekly schmooze. That's where we're at.
A free-for-all schmooze.
Why not?
So, Baruch Hashem, lead
Are
it.
you coming back, Rabbi, to do something else?
I'm Bezrat Hashem. I don't have it on the schedule, but Mitzvah Hashem.
Okay,
Yeah, something so good, might as well.
would be glad to,
Shuzi Carp.
yeah.
Thank you.
Get an aliyah
Yeah.
like that?
Sorry?
You get an aliyah like that?
Oh, no. My full name is Yehoshua Zelig. And I will respond if you say Yehoshua Zelig. I will also respond if you say Shuzi. Either one. That's fine.
I was just curious. It's a beautiful nickname, but
Yeah. Yeshua Zelig. Yeshua Zelig.
oh yeah.
That's, yeah, my pleasure. So everyone shall have Freilich and Purim.
Amen.
A happy
You too.
Purim, an exciting Purim.
Thank you,
And
Rabbi.
I'm really happy and privileged and excited to be part of this group. This
Good
is
group.
absolutely beautiful.
Please come again.
Good group.
Please come
Thank
again.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye,
Sure.
bye.
All the best.
A good
Okay.
Purim.
Bye,
Happy
everyone.
Purim.
Thank
Bye-bye.
On a way.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Shalom all.
Bye-bye.
Smith Land, you have to be.
I'm gonna leave it on. I'll just go to the other room. If anyone wants to schmooze, feel free. I'm gonna turn off my computer and go make some lunch. And feel free to schmooze or to hang up.
Bye.